Okay, I am back at the same place I was at last week. We're going to get on that route to the right of Good Looking Bad Hooking, Winds of Change. Should be fun. It's in a little more overcast today. It's calling for chance of thunderstorms and a little bit of rain, but pretty confident that'll hold off. See if I can get you a shot of the route here. I'll trace it out with my finger. That's not gonna work. Oh, maybe it might. Okay, so you can see I go up this way to the bolts, continue on, and then the anchors are up here somewhere. For comparison, the route I did last week is right here. Goes up this white streak all the way to the top. This one, the description says it's a little bit more run out than the previous one. If you blow a piece near the top, apparently you can take like a 40+ foot whip. So I'm gonna do my best not to do that. My goal today is gonna be not to fall, not like last week. Also last week I said that the Good Looking Bad Hooking was put up by Corey Hall. It was actually put up by Ian Lingley, who also put up this route that I'm gonna do today. And then Corey Hall came on afterwards and climbed it. So yeah, good on Ian. And the one he did today, he did ground up on site, I believe, which is pretty damn impressive. I'm happy that the bolts are already there for me. He didn't have that luxury. Yeah, I'll take you through some of my setup here before I start off the ground. And if you notice the framing seems off or anything like that, it's because I'm using just my rear camera or my front camera today on my phone. My rear camera doesn't support 60 frames per second video, so I had to upload my last week's video in 30 frames per second, and I far prefer shooting in 60 FPS. But as you can see, you probably can't see, but what I can see is that I can't see myself in my camera, so it's hard to get my framing exactly right. I've just kind of got to guess, but I think it's a worthwhile trade-off to get the 60 FPS. So I'm going to shoot today fully in the front camera and see how that goes, as opposed to switching between the rear and the front. Let's take a quick tour of my gear. So first things first, here is my rack. I'm going to pare this down quite a bit today, simply because I don't see a lot of placements. I think this is going to be largely hooking and bolt usage and small cams, so I'm not going to take a lot of this stuff up with me. If I really need to, I can always lower myself down and Jumar back up, grab some more gear. I could also tie some gear to the rope behind me and haul it up if I need it, sort of using the rope as a tagline, but we'll see. Then just a selection of draws and locking beaners, just always useful to have. Big pile of webbing, probably more than I'll need. Some prusik cord, always nice to have on me. I used it last week when I fell to get back up. This is what's going to be my ground anchor. Got some new toys this week. Got a selection of pins. Probably won't need them. We'll see. If anything, all these cracks are pretty flat and horizontal, so this would probably be I think this is the Lost Arrow pin, so that'll probably be the one that I used here. Got a funkness device in case that pin gets stuck. I hope I don't need that. Got some Fifi hooks. I'm going to try putting them on my harness this week. Last week I had a locking beaner that I would clip in close. This week I'm going to put the Fifi hooks, so I don't need to clip a beaner. I'm just going to stand up and put the Fifi hook straight to the piece. Selection of hooks here. On the advice of Ammon here last week, these aren't actually the ones that I used, but I think they're going to suffer from the same problem, is that the sling is a little long, so I'm losing a lot of height when I'm standing on my hooks because I'm falling down pretty far from the hooks. So I'm going to try, before I start up here, you can see here's an example of one that was way too long, and I'm going to try and shorten those up before I start out. Some more hooks. Talons here. Again, they're all pretty long slings, so I've got some extra cord that I'm going to try and tie up before I go. I've got this hook here. I didn't really find a use for it. I could see it being useful around flakes, but not here, so I'm going to leave that on the ground. And then I've got these ball nuts, which are going to be fun toys to play with. There's a lot of, I think the bolt holes are drilled pretty deep on this climb, so I think I can make use of these maybe in a bolt hole to protect myself. I think the FA used bolts just placed by hand into the holes and then levered on and then pulled them out. I don't have bolts with me, so I'm going to try and use these and then hook in the holes otherwise. I've never used these before. I've never weighted them or fallen on them, so I don't know what they're like. At the same time, I've never had one fail on me, so I've got 100% success rate there. So I think we can confidently say they're bomber. And just some micro nuts, nice to have. I got this fun piece, this little tiny micro Wild Country. Seems like it's going to be super hard to trust, seems super sketchy. So I'm going to try and get that in today and put some weight on it and see if I can convince myself that this will work. And then some other new toys here. I've got some adjustable daisies now. I've never used these before, so I'm going to have to figure out how to use these. They're supposed to be really convenient, so I'm excited to give those a try. Jumars, a shunt, my Gree ATC, the rope, hammer, helmet. Somewhere on the ground here I have another device that I was hoping to use potentially, oh, right here. I'm hoping I can use this little thing as a backup for my Gree. I'll see if I can make that work instead of having to tie backup knots. And then harness and my aiders. And that should get me up the route. Alright, let's see if I frame this up well. If I didn't, oh well, too bad. Now I'm going to set up my ground anchor for my route. So this is the tree I used last week, and it held my fall, so I don't see any reason not to use it again this week. So I'm just going to tie a standard tree anchor around this. Try and make sure I keep my knot out of the way of my cordelette, because I don't want that in my figure eight. Right, and then just your standard tree anchor, nothing special here. 2 lockers, and that's my belayer. Last week I left the rope on the ground when I ate it up. Usually when I free climb I carry the rope on my back, but I wanted to try out leaving it on the ground. I kind of hated it. I really prefer having it on my back. So this week I'm going to do the exact same thing as last week that I hated, and leave it coiled on the rock because I'm too lazy to put it into a backpack, so I'd rather just deal with it. So I'm going to flake it out on here, and that's going to be where I leave my rope. So I've got my rope flaked out on the rock there, and then I just take one end, the end on top, and a figure 8 on a bite, and then I clip it into my ground anchor here. And you watch me fumble as I do it one-handed, like a pro, like the professional that I am. Lock them both up. And that right there is what's going to catch me if I fall. So this is going to go to my Gree. Alright, so I'm all geared up here and ready to go. So you can see there's my anchor line going to my Gree here, which is sitting through my gear loop, or my leg loop and my waist loop. And so you can see that climber's end goes to there, brake end goes to here, and this is where I'll tie my backup knots. So that's all set up. My setup's a little bit different with I've got the 2 adjustable daisies here and here. Both of them are going to my etriers here, clipped to the same beaner. So we'll see how that plays out. And then the usual tons of gear. Yeah, I think that's about it. I think I'm ready to climb. So that's the initial hooking section done. Always nice to get to that first bolt here, since blowing a hook down there means you'll be hitting the ground. So looks like there's another hook right there, something in the horizontal. I'm gonna try and do it without a hammer if I can, so, but we'll see. If I need to put in a pin, I can put in a pin. And then carrying on. Cleared up a little bit, so I might not get thunderstormed on. I hope I don't get thunderstormed on. Right now I'm hanging off of a pin that I hammered in here. I'm actually hanging on the rope because I have to go back down. Well, I don't necessarily have to, but I feel like I want to. There's a pin that I put in earlier, and I'd really like to have it back because there's the last bolt, and then there's nothing between that and the anchors for quite a ways, but I see like that horizontal running across. And I would really like to have my pin back for that. So I'm going to go down, lower myself down to that draw there, which is my last pin, take that out so I can have it back for the last section. It's going a lot faster this time around. I feel like my systems are more dialed. It helps having the equipment. I'm really liking the adjustable daisies. I just clip in, pulling myself up tight to them. I'm still a little low on them sometimes, but if I find I don't need the height to get to the next placement, they're really nice. If I need the height, then I use this Fifi hook that I've got on my harness, and I pull myself in tight to the piece with the Fifi hook. So this system is a lot better than the old one. A nice little side look at the other aid line there from last week. Alright, back at the pin that I hammered out. If I hammered it out, I wouldn't be here, would I? Back at the pin that I hammered in. One other thing that I wanted to show you is this time around with my backup knots, I've just been clipping them to my gear loop. Not for strength reasons, because obviously the gear loop would just rip. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe I should just clip it somewhere full strength. Not for safety, but I don't want my gear loop to rip if I fall. Anyway, rambling. I've been clipping it to me so I've got a loop of slack on my brake end, which probably seems really obvious to anybody who actually knows what they're doing. But for me, I just figured it out, and it's way, way nicer because I don't have the weight pulling on the brake end of my gree-gree. So I just wanted to show you that as a little improvement that I made. Also, I think I'm going to start carrying a Jumar up with me. The pressure cord, while nice because it's really light, is just kind of a pain to haul back up and down with if I'm going to be going back up and down for pins and stuff. So I think it's worth the extra weight of having a Jumar on me for the future. So this is a good example of when I needed the extra height for the Fifi. So I've got the Fifi here. I think I should have actually hooked it over top of the beaner, but this is still plenty solid even underneath the beaner. And I'm standing in the third rung of my aiders. Kind of got a V step going on to take some weight off my feet. And I just found an opportunity to place this pecker, which is cool, really cool. I have never used one before. It feels solid, it looks solid. I tapped it in a little bit with the hammer, so it just needs to get me up to that bolt. And so let's try it out. Let's see if this, I'll either see you at the bolt or I'll see you 20 feet down. Hey, I get to see you at the bolt. You see there's the slot I put the pecker into. Still going really good. Yeah, really happy with my pace today. You know, if I didn't have to stop and make some stupid video every once in a while, I'd be going pretty quick. If only I had memory of like an elephant. I don't know, do elephants have good memory? Who knows? If I ramble this much when I'm on my own and I'm just on a single pitch and I'm only like a couple hours since I left my house, I can't imagine how much I'm going to ramble when I'm alone on a wall for a couple days. Anyway, this looks like the section where Ian's description says you could take a 40-footer if piece rips. So we got some kind of like suspect looking blocks here, and then there's nothing between me and the anchor except hopefully something good in that crack. I'm sure I can get a pin if nothing else, but definitely going to be exciting. It's a long section ahead of me without any good gear. Definitely exciting. So I'm on my hook here. One thing I noticed is I didn't make my tails very long on this knot, so like I'm not super, it's solid, it's not going to pull through, but I'd like more than a finger length of tail. I'm going to retie that later. Anyway, so I had to step through on this tiny little 0.1 C4, which can be pretty solid, but where is it? Just gotta find it. Here we go. But it's hard to tell. Anyway, it's in pretty rough, bad rock. This limestone is not super solid, so I don't trust it a whole lot. It might hold a fall, but probably not. The next piece down is that pin. That pin definitely won't hold a fall. I left it in for my own mental sake. And then the next piece that will actually catch me is that bolt down there. Fun fact, this giant rock is just sitting there. That's really loose. So yeah, if this hook that I'm on blew, I think I'd be going for a pretty good ride. Luckily, maybe one more hook move to the anchors. They're right there, so should be good. Woo, all right. I am at the anchors of Winds of Change, probably the second ascent. Way better than the first route, which was that one. Actually, I'm about level with where I fell off the route, where the piece blew on me. So yeah, it felt really good. I think I mentioned most of the improvements that I would make as I went along, if there were any. Big thanks to Ammon there. The intel on shortening up the hook lengths, that was huge. I got so much more altitude out of it. And thanks to Chris Norfolk and Adam Morgan there for hooking me up with a lot more aid gear. The adjustable daisies are like a godsend. Yeah, so really fun. I think the next one up is going to be the True Great Roof at Eagle Rock. That should be fun. It's a horizontal hammering of pins straight out like a 20-foot roof. Cool. All right, see ya.